The fact that I did a debate review of Jay, because I thought his arguments sucked, they were terrible. He destroyed Tazaryach. But like I said, even Joey can destroy Tazaryach. Now, if Joey can destroy Tazaryach, especially, which dude wears sunglasses in a dark room?
All right, Cap. All right, Cap. This is not my debate, so I have no rebuttal. I'll let you. It's not my debate, right? We had many debates before, right, so we'll save that for another time. All right, Jay. Give me 1 second here. Let me restart the timer. And once you start speaking, let me take you off of mute as well.
Yeah.
Once you start speaking, I'll start.
I have a link there too. If you want to pull that bottom link there up just for a second.
You want me to pull it up now?
If you get a chance, yeah. I'll go ahead and talk, and then I'll go to it when it goes
Got
up.
it.
It refutes what he said. Paul says in Romans 1 that he is an apostle called by Christ to confirm what was taught in the prophets that came before. That's the Old Testament prophets concerning the Son, Jesus Christ our Lord, who is born of the flesh according to the seed of David. That's his human nature. But was declared Son of God according to the Spirit of holiness. So to be a son of God means that you have the nature of your Father. I have a son. That means he's going to have my nature, human nature. So Jesus being of his human nature of the flesh, it's not a contradiction with him being also of his divinity, the son of his Father, according to eternal generation, which is described in John chapter 1. In fact, he asked for proof of the deity of Christ. Well, it turns out there are in other words, in every chapter of the book of John, there is a reference either to the deity of Christ.
By the way, Tazaryach, even a couple months earlier, mentioned Tertullian, and Jay never answered the objection. In fact, if you go watch, I did a series on their debate. That's when I was trying to be nice to Jay and bail him out. Okay, the Lord is going to confirm if I'm lying to you. One of the reasons why I did the debate review, guys, let me explain to you. Let me let the cat out of the bag. Okay, listen to me. If you see me do a debate review, that is my way of saying I didn't think the Christian guy did a stellar job. Yeah, he did defeat Tazaryach. I'm not lying, because Tazaryach is a joke. But I was troubled by some of his answers because they were not orthodox, pun intended. So let me let you in on a secret. Typically, when I do a debate review, not always, sometimes I'll just do it. But in the majority of instances, when I do a debate review, take that as a sign I didn't think our guy did well. I'm not saying he didn't flatten Tazaryach. Even my 16-year-old daughter could flatten Tazaryach. There's no victory. So why he's a kid, he's a joke. He only debates kids. He cannot debate real bona fide scholars. Don't believe me? Go see what Trent Doherty did to him and Christopher Tomaszowski did to him, made him whine like a little girl, and even got him to concede their argument about Muslims, in a sense, worshiping the same God generically. But his argument is, well, I'm here to debate Vatican I, Vatican II. And he was sulking and then left like a little girl and ran because he's a little girl. Tazaryach was right about it. But I didn't want to make it personal with him. But he's a dog, so I got a Muslim. Go watch it. He's not good when he deals with people who know the material. That's why I'll bury him when it comes to the Trinity from Scripture and church history. I'm telling you, I'll bury him. Take me up. Let's do it. Give me a holler. Let's go. Because I want you to address what you said about the Father being Jesus God by virtue of him being the source and begetter. I want you to substantiate that and prove it. You can. But you're going to run behind Vatican II. Right? Like Muhammad ran behind Aisha's dress. Okay, now watch. Listen.
Or two, the Trinity. And I have a whole lecture through the entirety of the Gospel of John on my channel if you're going to go check it out. But if you look at that link, you'll see right there.
Let me share it again.
Yeah, underneath that link there. Again, this is an illiterate person. And so when we go to actual Hebrew Blue Letter Bible Strong's Dictionaries H3064, which talks about the word.
Yeah, illiterate person. And he was complaining about Tazaryach using AI to find answers, Grok to find answers, right? But I want to know how many times, if he fears God and he's honest to God and he goes to confession, how many times he has to go online to check something out or have someone text him, because you'll see he's on his phone. Because he's a coward. He's a dog. He's got to demonize the other to make himself look better, right? But nonetheless.
Word Yehudi or Yehudite, which is where we get the word Jew, you will see that in Zechariah 8:23, Jeremiah 43, Esther 2, etc. There are multiple references there to the word Yehudite, which is where we get the word Jew. Jesus says in John 4, salvation is of the Jews. Again, refuting what this person said, who's fundamentally illiterate, just like he didn't even understand the self-own when he admitted in his talk that Moses is called a god. Yeah, that means that the word God can refer to different things. That's exactly what I argued. So Jesus having a God means that the Father is his God. That's monarchical Trinitarianism.
Hear it? Did I misrepresent it?
No,
Did I misrepresent it?
I don't, not at all.
Did you hear it? That's monarchical Trinitarianism. The reason why Jesus has a God is because the Father is the source and the begetter. Hear it? One more time. And he alluded to it throughout the debate, even in the second debate, which we're going to go through. Even in the second debate, when he brought up the same passages Tazaryach did. Listen to it. The guy's an idiot. He's stupid. Here.
Yehudite, which is where we get the word Jew. Jesus says in John 4, salvation is of the Jews. Again, refuting what this person said, who's fundamentally illiterate, just like he didn't even understand the self-own when he admitted in his talk that Moses is called a god. Yeah, that means that the word God can refer to different things. That's exactly what I argued. So Jesus having a God means that the Father is his God. That's monarchical Trinitarianism. That's our position. But that's also an explanation as to why there are so many passages in the Old and New Testament referring to the Son as divine, the one who...
So you heard it, right? The reason why Jesus is divine is because of the monarchical Trinitarian teaching. So you understand? I'm not misrepresenting him. The Father is Jesus's God because the Father is the source and begetter of the Son, which is why Jesus is divine. Did you guys hear it? Do I need to play that again so you guys don't think I'm misrepresenting him? He didn't say in his humanity. He said the reason why the Son is divine, God, because the Father is the source and begetter of the Son, which is why he's also the God of the Son. That's what he just said. Do I need to play that again? Let him finish his point.
Who appeared to Moses, the one who appeared to Hagar, who Hagar saw God face to face. Well, Jesus says that no one sees the Father. So who was the God that appeared in the Old Testament in all those theophanies?
See, now he's lucky I'm not an anti-Trinitarian. I'd bury him in his misunderstanding, misapplication of John 5:37, John 6:46, John 1:18, Exodus 33:20. I know what he's referring to. But do you guys caught what he just said? He said in the monarchical Trinitarian understanding, Elijah, I see you, brother, bring you up. Trinitarian understanding, the Father being the source of the divine nature, because he is the source of the divine essence, it originates from him, being the source of it. The Son's nature and the Spirit's nature derive from the Father, because it's his nature they possess fully, inseparably, eternally, timelessly. So the Father begets the Son, breathes out the Spirit, Spirit proceeds from the Father. So that's monarchical Trinitarianism. That's why Christ is God, but that's why the Father is also his God. He pushed it off on the monarchy. Now, brother, if you want to add something, go ahead. We're going to bring up Elijah, but add something because we're going to go into the Elijah's here, but add something to that if you want, because I'll bring in the early Christians in a minute. But go ahead, brother.
The fathers generally have two positions on this, guys. And it's not what Dyer is teaching whatsoever. Either they attribute it to the incarnation or they attribute it to the ascension. One or the other. But when they either
incarnation and what?
Ascension. All right. So even those that start with the ascension in their explication of verses like John 20:17, they actually tie it right back to the incarnation insofar as the Lord descended off his throne. Something like Wisdom 18:16, the word 18:15 and 16, the word leaped off of his throne, right? And then if they attribute it to the ascension, well, that's one party of the patristic witnesses, but the other party, just like Sam said, attributed to the moment he's incarnate. That's when the Father is his God.
And they both are in agreement. It's not either
Exactly. Yes, they're in tandem.
Because when you ascend, because it's Christ ascending as a glorified man.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is John 6, right? What if
Yeah.
you should see the Son of Man
Ascend
right
to where he was before, John 6:62.
Yeah. Yeah.
John 6:62. So you see, it's even at the ascension, is because now he's returning as a man,
Right.
with a glorified physical body from the Holy Virgin that he now glorified because he raised it. That's why he has a God. So it's still because he's man.
Mm-hmm.
Incarnation, it's because he's man. And we got receipts. But before we did that, the great Elijah, the Chaldean hater, because he's really Assyrian. You can unmute yourself, hater.
What's up, brothers?
Brother, thank you for joining us last moment.
After the time of Irenaeus, where Arius is disagreeing with Athanasius. In all academic Christian literature, even amongst people who disagree with Christianity, there's not an equivalence between patristic writers and church fathers. Those are different categories. So, for example, Origen, Tertullian, they were outside of the church and they ended up being patristic writers. Their writings are worthwhile. They have a lot of historical attestation, but they're not church fathers. And so he
10 seconds.
specifically said that church fathers all disagreed, but you saw when we actually go into this, he has no idea what he's talking about. He's just reading from the internet.
Now, watch, he's going to brag like Anthony Rogers, which was his destruction. Remember when Anthony Rogers foamed at the mouth? I have the church fathers. Meaning now, like the Pharisees, you say you see, then your sin remains. When you say to God, I see, then he's going to punish you worse because you're testifying against yourself. Anthony Rogers, I have the church fathers. So then when he got caught quoting forgeries, because secondary sources, and lying about sources, that means his judgment is deserved. This dog is going to say, unlike him, I've read the fathers. Well, that means you are stupid and uneducated because you can't understand. Why? Because watch.
All right, Cat, floor is yours.
Response. Tertullian, for example, 155, maybe that's a closer timeline to him against Praxis.
Now, because Tazaryach is not educated and he's going on internet, the quotation is right, but the book is wrong. He goes against Praxeus. The quotation is right. The book is wrong. It wasn't against Praxeus. If this idiot knew Tertullian, he'd know where he's quoting from. God is my witness. When I heard it, I knew where he's quoting from. Do you know why, guys? I wrote a post on what Tertullian said. Do you know why I wrote a post? Because in the Jehovah's Witness literature, should you believe in the Trinity, which I'm going to bring up, they quote Tertullian saying this, which rocked me. But glory to Jesus, I found the answer. Now watch.
There was a time when the Son was not. Why is that controversy? Because people believe that Christ always was. That's why it says against Praxeus. Then you have Athanasius, which comes 296.
Now, did you hear it? Tertullian said there was a time when the Son was not. Now, this guy's going to manifest and say, unlike you, I've read the fathers. Then why didn't you know about that quotation? One more time, listen. Because we're going to go into receipts.
Whatever you wanted to respond to into his questions.
No.
Okay. All right. So then the 1 minute goes to Jay then. Do you want to take it or do you want Jay to take it? I was trying to give it to you. Be fair.
No, he can have it.
Okay, Jay, the 1 minute is yours.
Wait. I thought I was on a one.
Yeah, so again,
There was a time when the Son,
amongst people who disagree with Christianity, there's not an equivalence between patristic writers and church fathers. Those are different categories. So, for example, Origen, Tertullian, they were outside of the church and they ended up being patristic writers. Their writings are worthwhile. They have a lot of historical attestation, but they're not church fathers. And so he
10 seconds.
specifically said that church fathers all disagreed, but you saw when we actually go into this, he has no idea what he's talking about. He's just reading from the internet.
Let's see. Now watch.
All right, Cat, floor is yours.
Response. Tertullian, for example, 155, maybe that's.
Ooh, what did I do? Because I'm so
It's
stupid.
Theophanies.
Damn,
It has to be
I'm
the Son. And in fact, in John 5-9, Jesus, their writings are worthwhile. They have a lot of historical attestation, but they're not church fathers. And so he
10 seconds.
specifically said that church fathers all disagreed, but you saw when we actually go into this,
Send me
he
the
has
link
no
to
idea
Jesus
what he's
Christ
talking about. He's
website
just
if you can.
reading from the internet.
Website.
All right, Cat, floor is yours.
Response. Tertullian, for example, 155, maybe that's a closer timeline to him, against Praxis. There was a time when the sun was not. Why is that controversy? Because people believe that Christ always was. That's why it says against Praxis. Then you have Athanasius, which comes 296, that says the sun is eternal.
What he called Athanasius? Agnatius. Agnes.
When it comes to the circumcision, Justin Martyr, we too should observe the fleshly circumcision if we did not know. That's 100 AD. Says Torah had a temporary purpose. Irenaeus, 130, 202. Abraham was justified without circumcision, emphasizes faith over the law. So there was discrepancy of you didn't have to do circumcision or you could do circumcision. There was a question of Christ having a creation point, Christ not having a creation point. So it doesn't matter which time frame that I started. You don't have to say, yeah, shut your mouth. You don't have to talk during my time. I didn't talk during your time. There's only one professional here.
And by the way, to be honest, he didn't talk over Jay. Jay kept cutting him off, right? Which I didn't care, but now I want to make it an issue. Jay did keep coming up. This guy didn't, because he likes to play the victim. Because we're the black man. You white people, you, okay? And that's why I got frustrated. And this guy was biased towards Jay.
So now,
all right, Cap, time up.
What year? It doesn't matter what year.
Cap, time up, man. You use your time. Just let him reply.
This whole debate, when he went over the time, you gave him extra seconds.
Okay, go ahead. Land your plane.
Even when I spoke, you said, hey, Cap, let's let him end this
Oh,
plane.
my God, dude.
But you
Quit
don't let me
whining,
land
man.
my
I'll
plane.
let you do it as well, Cap, but go ahead. Land your plane. It's fine.
I had to say something to let you let me
Whining,
do it, 'cause your values
bitch.
too. So now, you the bitch.
I like Cap. I like Cap better than I like Jay Dyer, bro.
Oh, I love this, but this guy doesn't like us. He would move on us. You the bitch.
Now we calling each other bitches. You the bitch.
I said you're whining and bitching.
You're a bitch though.
Okay, fine.
Like, you're the one that's unprofessional.
You ready to get refuted?
As I was closing
You ready
out,
to get refuted?
it doesn't matter what year I use. The point is, who they call the church fathers did not agree on everything. That's a fact. And I gave sources that's closer to his timeline.
Yeah, let's go into.
Oh, Tertullian is not a church father, and he's not a saint. No. Tertullian left the church to follow Montanus. Right. But the Montanists, they still loved and worshiped the Trinity. But they followed Montanus because he claimed to receiving revelations from the Holy Spirit, the Paraclete. And Tertullian made a scathing attack on the papacy because his claims, and Divine Mercy did a session on it, by saying that the pontiff calls himself, the supreme pontiff Maximus, was an indirect affirmation that at that time they looked to the Pope as that of the church.
Right.
Expound on that real quickly.
Some things act as examples and other things act as anti-examples, right? Or as we would understand them to be hostile witnesses. Tertullian cannot be complaining against something that doesn't exist. So if he has a major scathing attack, as you put it, against the view of the papal understanding, then it stands to reason that the papal understanding exists. It's an ipso facto admittance. It's very problematic. It's almost like when people cite Cyprian, who would, beginning of his career, for instance, be very papal. And after the disagreement on the rebaptism controversy, he would then become against the papal understanding. So you see him having a pro-papal view and then an anti-papal view. But if there should be an anti-papal view, then whatever is papal exists. Same with Tertullian. These act as hostile witnesses.
You guys caught it, right? When Tertullian is railing against the papacy, says he's no longer in the church, and railing against the papacy, he's telling you what they thought about the Pope's authority at that time. But he doesn't want to submit to it because that means Montanus is a false prophet. Now, to answer his question, okay, listen. Tertullian is such a giant in early church history, you cannot ignore him and discard his writings. That's why they include him in your volume called the Church Fathers. It's not because he's a church father. It's because he had such a massive influence, because he was a great, outstanding defender apologist for the Trinity and other core doctrines that he still believed while he was in the church and later, that you can't get rid of his writings. Same thing with Origen. So these are why their writings were preserved, because they were brilliant and they made brilliant arguments that other Christians looked to and quoted and learned from. So you can't get rid of Tertullian. Now, with that said, all right, let him finish this, because I want to see how Jay didn't answer the question. What was the question? Tertullian said there was a time when the sun was not.
Jesus was not, yeah.
He never addressed it because he's stupid. But I addressed it in my review when I was trying to be nice to Gayer. But I'm not nice to him anymore because I don't like you, punk.
For the first source.
How long does he get the hot seat? When is it my turn for the hot seat?
Dude, stop bitching about my time. And
So Cap, remember he did. You did. We started with you doing the interrogation, but you said you didn't need long, and you stopped your interrogation very quick.
All I asked was how long. I'm just asking how long.
Can we go to this? He mentioned against
I did
Praxeas.
not say I had to stop. Asking how long does not mean I wanted to stop. I'm trying to get a time frame.
Okay, got it. Okay, well he got 1 minute right now.
What was
Are you able to?
The floor is 1 minute. Jay, go ahead.
Are you able to pull up anything? Because he referenced a text. That's
He's not going to answer the question.
You asking me that?
No. Cooley, are you able to pull up anything, or is that?
Yeah, I can pull up some stuff.
Now, I blame Jay because he's going to boast about knowing the fathers. But he did say Tertullian against Praxeas. It wasn't. It was against Hermogenes. If this guy knew the fathers like he claims, I read them like you, then stupid, dumbass. How come you didn't know the quote? I knew it when he mentioned it. Go watch my review. Tazaryach J. When I reviewed it, I went and I showed you I have a post on it. Because you're a dumbass, dude. You don't know much.
Stuff for sure.
Okay, so this link that I put in the private chat there, he mentioned against Praxeas.
All right.
Okay, so you'll look at chapter 2. Well, you pull up that page and you scroll down to chapter 2. He gave the impression that Tertullian was teaching the Arian view, which is a misquotation because Tertullian teaches...
Misquotation. Okay, what's misquoting about it? Because Tertullian did say there was a time when the sun was not, but he was a Trinitarian. Watch. What does he do? He doesn't address the context. He doesn't know the context. The idiot doesn't know where he's quoting from. So he goes to against Praxeas to show. See, there's a chapter in Tertullian's work where he's defending the Catholic doctrine of the Trinity. Yeah, but Tertullian did say there was a time when the sun was not.
What is that in chapter 2? Can you see that? What's the title of chapter 2 right there?
I'll go ahead and pull it up.
See, I've actually read these books. He hasn't read these books.
See that?
No,
Chapter 2 says, in against Praxeas.
Remember when you say you see, you're with sin. Jesus said, I came into the world to give sight to those who cannot see and take away sight from those who can. So then the religious ruler said, what are you saying? That we're blind too? John 9:39-41 after he healed the blind man. He goes, because you say you see, your sin remains. He just said, see, I see. Then you're a joke. That's why God is now stirring me up to expose you.
Pull down a little bit.
Yep.
Let's just read this title. Chapter 2, the Catholic doctrine of the Trinity and Unity, sometimes called the divine economy or the dispensation of the personal relations of the Godhead. So notice this is 150 AD, which he tried to misquote as a reference to Arianism. He doesn't even know that this book is a refutation of the modalist position, which is his Unitarian position.
And you didn't know that Tertullian did say there was a time when the sun was not, because you're stupid. You don't know their church fathers.
He calls Praxeas the modalist who believes that there's only one person in the Godhead a heretic. The very book that this idiot is citing from is a defense of the Trinity, the Catholic doctrine of the Trinity in 150 AD, which is what he cited. So this actually refutes everything that he was arguing, that he doesn't even know the sources.